Good morning. How are you today? Well, it's a little windy, but it's great. Sun, temperature, it's ideal. I think we've had a number of successes and we've talked about them, but we have some challenges ahead of us that we have to consider. I think the predicate for everything else seems to be voting. Consider how the Republicans on the Hill and the insurrectionists sought to overturn an election because they didn't like the outcome, the vote. Look at how we have experienced Republicans seeking to suppress votes in elections across the country without much success. Look at how the prior administration tried to actually slow down, even stop the mail, I suppose, in some places, counties and districts where there was a greater black vote, or those who were perceived to be those who would vote against him, vote for Biden. These are trend lines that we have to be aware of. And there are states that are seeking to pass laws to make it tougher to vote. Plainly, that's a strategy for those who don't think they can get the vote, and that's why they do it. And Georgia has just come down with a whole bunch of terrible voting practices, disallowing all manner of voting practices that allow access to the polling place to vote for whomever you want. And it's no accident this is happening before they have their own statewide elections. And they're very concerned about mail-in ballots and things like that, in which people who otherwise could not get to vote. And we're going to see that in other states. What's the remedy? The remedy for these voting provisions has got to be a bill on the Hill. H.R. 1, as it stands or as amended, is the answer to that question. But this is the problem. That bill, unlike the budget reconciliation bill, requires 60 votes. Okay? So it's subject to a filibuster. Now, we had been concerned, as you remember, about Manchin, the senator from West Virginia, being one of our very tight margin of control in the Senate, not lining up with other Democrats and permitting there to be a change in that vote so the majority would work. But now he's thinking about it when it comes to voting. But what do we have? Surprise. In the White House, we have Joe Biden, who's a traditionalist, who believes there should be supermajority for some items on the agenda. Well, here's the problem. The problem is we have those people who are opposed to democratic policies and are in favor of autocracies. And so those people we can't have determine the way to compromise our elections. So how do we correct that? Well, the answer is simple and difficult at the same time. The answer is that we have to agree to change the rules for the filibuster and make it a majority vote when it comes to voting reform to protect us from Jim Crow laws. And I may go into more detail on this now that I think about it when I do my podcast later. There are another set of bills that have to concern us that are related, and they are the Racial Justice Acts, aptly named after George Floyd, who was literally killed by a police officer. But it's not just about him, it's a whole array of laws. And we see a trend line in America where Republicans seek at every turn to compromise individual rights and liberties. And we can't allow that to happen. You know, for example, in Arkansas, the governor has approved a bill against all abortions. Now, he knows that that's unconstitutional. So do the legislators who approved it. So what do we have? We have this experience in the Republican Party in which they will openly defy laws by the Supreme Court, by their legislators, to get to an end that in this case they know is unconstitutional. So people like that are not fit for office. And then there are two answers to these things. Of course, there are elections, but if the elections are compromised by these practices to diminish those who would vote them out of office, we're nowhere. And I suspect that we will see what Arkansas thinks is the law stayed by a district court who will consider the fact that it is plainly unconstitutional. When I worked on the Hill, on the Judiciary Committee, sometimes they passed laws saying, oh, let the courts take the blame, not us. The Democrats were in the minority when I was serving on the Hill, on both occasions, on both sides of the Hill. So that's kind of my thinking about our agenda going forward to protect our rights and liberties, but particularly at the polling places. So have a good day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.